Hello and welcome to this wonderful panel discussion. This is one of 6 panel discussions as part of the Women in AI Forum. Today we're going to be discussing competency, career ownership, and autonomy. And I think this is a very appropriate group of women from around the world that can talk very much on this subject because there was no room for failure. I mean, they put a objective to their mind, and come hell or high water, they made it happen. That's deeply respectable, and I hope we can all learn a little something from them. So I will start with Anne Cantera. She is a digital experience designer, UX, AI, and chatbots, and she works at LexisNexis. She has over 15 years of experience in pioneering and shaping innovative projects in the space of AI and conversational design. Prior to this, she has been a chef, a mom, and a business owner. And pleasure to have you. Where are you calling from, and how are you doing?
Hey, Joaquin. I am doing great. I am in New York, in the beachy part of New York on Long Island. And happy to be spending my good time Friday night with you guys.
Katrina Montinola. She is the practical AI group lead at 2Go Advisory Group. She has over 25 years of experience building and leading engineering teams in the Silicon Valley, from recruiting to onboarding, cultivating an inclusive company culture. She helps out everything from operations to technology implementation. Katrina, it's lovely to have you, and yeah, I'm looking forward to learning a little bit from you. Where are you calling from?
Thank you, Joaquin. I am in Silicon Valley, near Stanford University, so south of San Francisco. And it's still early in the afternoon here. So, and it's a beautiful day.
Melanie Peterson. She is the Senior Director of Train AI at RWS Group. She is responsible for delivering complex, cutting edge AI training data solutions to global clients operating across a range of industries. She has over 20 years of experience in the field of AI and technology at large. Melanie, I know you've been traveling quite a bit. I hope you can bear with us for the last 60 minutes before you go and rest up from your travels. But where are you calling from?
Absolutely. I'm going to take you everywhere I go, Joaquin, to introduce me. Yeah, I'm right outside Jacksonville in Ponte Vedra Beach, and looking forward to this. Just got back from 2 weeks in Europe, got to see my team, meet some clients, and then I was just in NYC, but not the beachy part with Anne. But I am in the beachy part now of Florida.
Siba Siddiq. She is a technical product manager at Curated AI. She has a double master's degree in engineering management and human computer interaction and design. She has upwards of 6 years of working in software, and I'm delighted to have you. Siba, would you like to tell us where you're calling from?
Sure. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm calling from Rhode Island, Coventry, and yeah, excited to get us started.
Well, I think with this wonderful panel of women from across the U.S., I'd love to start by asking, what would you consider is constructive empowerment, especially in an environment like technology and AI, where there is a high value on hard skills?
For me, I like to try. I love the saying "empowered women empower women," and I spend a lot of hours a week trying to help other people um, refine their skills, make their pivots, um, just kind of nurture them, whatever it is they're trying to do, because that's how my path was paved with other women willing to help me, who spent a lot of time with me, and I try and return that to anybody who needs it.
So, from my point of view, constructive empowerment means that I tell my team, and you're talking about hard skills here. Tell my team, okay, I believe these are the hard skills that you need, and then I empower them by asking them, well, how would you like to um, gain these? Like, do you want to take a class? Do you want to volunteer in some stuff, in a project maybe that I know is going on in a bigger company, in another part of the company? Or we just basically, it's empowerment, because we're brainstorming with each other. I'm not telling them you got to do this or you got to do that, and I believe that that's way better anyway, because then you're more if it's your idea, then you're more motivated to complete it.
Yeah, I agree, with both of those those statements, but I really think having those conversations, the collaboration with your team, watching what they do, because sometimes they might not know what they're good at or where they want to
Mhm.
pivot or upskill. And sometimes as leaders, because we've been around for so long, we can watch our teams and say, I think they'd be really good at this, and then have those conversations. Look, I think you'd be great at this, which requires this skill. Do you agree? And how can I help you and be supportive, and whether it's a training class, whether it's an online, whether it's, I think Katrina, you just mentioned that, like, you want to come into a project with me where I can show you what I've learned. Because yeah, I mean, to Anne's point too, my path has been paved by very smart women who have helped me be successful. And I think we all get very busy, but it's really important for us to take a moment and remember that
Yeah.
it's almost our responsibility as women in tech to help the next generation be better and upskill. And I take that as a privilege, and really love doing that in my career.
Yeah, and just to add to everyone's point, I think understanding as well that we all started from the same point. Like, we all started in a place where we didn't really know what we wanted to do, and so yeah, when you're in a position, I guess, where you can help others and pay it forward, as Anne mentioned, and also like giving ownership. Also, there's this level of intrinsic motivation and reward that comes with that. So I think that's like a big thing. And I know the question was about hard skills, but soft skills is also something very important. So understanding people's working styles and in other qualities that might be helpful and beneficial for them is also part of this.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, there's no ownership if you just dump a suggestion in somebody's lap and say, go do it.
Yes.
That dialogue, that empowerment is a two-way road. So in technology and AI, we can agree that every week there's something new, and it's exhaustive to keep track of it. But what does it mean to upskill in this dynamic and rapidly evolving landscape?
Ooh. I think kind of filtering what is potentially going to be important down the road versus what is just kind of AI noise, and then concentrating on those areas that might help you in your job or help you upskill or be relevant and useful versus just I mean, there's a lot of noise out there right now, and you have to kind of filter through it and get to the good stuff and then concentrate on that. And it's nice to do that with other people, and get those differing opinions. And I feel like my circle of AI friends, tech friends, whatever, LinkedIn friends, really makes it much easier to digest it all in a group and have support.
So, Joaquin, is the question like, how did we upskill, or I believe that's your question, correct? Like, or how would you recommend somebody upskill in AI? Is that the question?
I'd love to hear both.
Oh, okay. So, so for me, I have a computer science background, but which was a long time. I was in computer science in college a long time ago, and my background, my area of specialization was actually networking, so it wasn't AI. But then I wanted to get into the AI field, especially because my last job I was VP of engineering of a healthcare analytics company. So that's kind of the early parts of AI, and so what I did was I didn't want to go back to school, but so what I did is I took some deep learning AI classes. So I did a certification on machine learning and on NLP and stuff like that. And so to give me a foundation, and then after that, I just volunteered and did a bunch of hackathons on LabLab.ai, which was really good. I mean, I always managed engineers for many years in my career, but I feel like, if I'm going to manage engineers, I need to understand what their life is like right now. And so I wanted to go back to coding because coding has changed so much. I mean, I started coding in the 80s and then 90s, So it was good to do that, to volunteer and that sort of thing. So so that's what I did. But I think now you can, so besides that, those two things, the other thing that I think is really useful now is you can actually get AI to help you upskill yourself in AI or any topic, really. Any of these language models like Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, you can ask them, you can say, on any subject, you can ask, if I want to upskill in X, what things do I need to know? And then it'll tell you. And then if you don't understand anything there, or some of it you don't understand, you can say, well, what's that? Explain it to me, and and at the high school level or whatever, that kind of thing. So there's a lot you can do these days, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I mean, I think I've pivoted so much that everything I've done in my career has been upskilling. I mean, I have a BSED in history and political science. Had grand dreams that I would be a lawyer, then I was going to be a teacher. Then I started
Cool.
working in localization, which really introduced me to some of big tech in a different way. And then I had an opportunity to work with IBM Watson way back in 2010. And for those of us that are been around for a while, remember that IBM Watson at the time was on Jeopardy.
Mhm.
And so I could finally tell people like, hey, I'm working on this. This is really cool.
Yeah.
And sitting in a room with some of the brightest people you'd ever meet. But I was the only woman in that room all the time. And there was 20 men and me, right? So, I took that as a challenge and just continued to learn. Failure was not an option for me, and I've always been, I think Sabah, you just mentioned this, like intrinsically motivated to be the best that I can be and to not fail. And I think the other thing as women is super important. I chose to upskill because I didn't want anyone else to define my path for me and tell me what I could and could not do.
Yeah.
And I've had very difficult bosses in my life. I learn everything from or I learn something from everyone that passes me, whether I ever want to see them again or not. I choose to take what they're gonna teach me, and then I'm like, you know what, you said I can't do this. Well, guess what? I am gonna do this, and
I love that.
I am not gonna fail. And I think as women, like to
I
me,
love.
that's the upskilling.
Mhm.
Just keep going and don't let anyone define your path for you, and prove everyone wrong along the way, and always smile. So
Yeah.
that's for me, like that's really my upskilling path, and what I try to help others with as much as possible.
I love that. Yeah, and I think for me, it's more like being at the right place at the right time. So my background was sort of unconventional. I started off as an electrical engineer. I pivoted into HCI, and again into data science, and then now into management. So I feel like the past decade has just been learning and upskilling myself, and working like for short stints in between. All of that. But I feel like right now, where I'm at as a product manager at an AI company, it is very much a culmination of everything, right? Like it's a famous quote, right? I think it's by Steve Jobs. You can't connect the dots looking forward, but you connect them looking backwards. So for me, I find that to be so relevant and very applicable in my case. And I guess the other thread that's common for me is storytelling. So in all of these option careers that I've had, like with data, with user personas, and all of these things, there's always been that element of telling a story, communicating to different people in terms they can understand. And yeah, I guess in a way I've brought them both together. If I was an engineer or in STEM, I would probably be a journalist. So I guess that's it's interesting to find ways to bring them together. And to add on with the AI part or hard skills, there are a lot of skills like generative AI for product managers, or people to whom these hard skills were inaccessible. Right now, it's a level playing field. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities for everyone, even if you're not coming from a STEM background. So that's also really great to see.
Yeah, and don't you think that I feel like in my career at least, you always have to feel like you're upskilling. You always have to feel like you're learning something,
Always.
right?
Evolve or die, right? I mean, that's the thing.
Exactly.
Like, if we were all still doing the same thing we did when we first started, we wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah.
I was a Flash programmer.
Yes, I remember that.
And you would definitely be unemployed right now.
Yeah.
So we have all these different perspectives. I'd love to ask, what is the difference between being a generalist and a specialist? And how does that apply to the job market today?
I'll try and keep this one short so everybody else can go too. When I meet with people and mentor with them, I talk about toolboxes a lot. And I think, generalist has generalist tools in their toolbox that they count on every day. But then you get your sort of specialist tools mixed in there, and maybe not everybody else has those tools, and that's why you're a specialist. And for me, as soon as I got those conversational AI tools in my toolbox, I became more employable and more of a commodity. And that's when I pivoted from a generalist UX title into conversational AI. It was when I actually became a specialist and got enough traction to get hired.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to be both in different areas, correct? You can be, you're a specialist in one area, but in order to do your job, you have to be generalist in other areas, because you have to understand what other people around you are doing, and so you kind of have to be a generalist in that. And also, like, even in very specific in tech skills, like you can be you can have a specific, like a language or whatever, but you also have to be a generalist in the sense that you have to understand how all the other parts, tech parts work, and you can't be too much of a specialist and just really not understand what QA is doing, what product managers are, that kind of thing. So I feel like you need both. And then when you become a manager, you definitely need both, because you have to understand how how everybody on your team provides value, and so you need to be general there, but you can still have your own specialization too, and it's good to have that, because, well, it's job security a little bit, or it makes you valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. But just sort of evolve on that. I'm a business owner, P&L owner, right? Those skills are, very employable, and you need them. I would call them generalist skills, but then, we're lucky enough to have these ever evolving specialist skills of AI. And I think, to the point that you just made, I was thinking when you said this, we can't, if you specialize just in one skill and never evolve from that, again, you're not going to have a job, right? So, like, there's that specialization, but as long as you're evolving the specialization, like, even if I think about my journey in AI from 2010 and IBM Watson, like what we were doing in 2010 versus what I'm doing now, right? We're moving at the speed of light. And so it's a specialization that's always evolving, but you absolutely need to have a generalist skill set in other areas.
And I think also the stage of your career also influences whether you can be a specialist or a generalist. So I think initially, obviously, you have to be open and you can't be too selective or too specialized, or you can. I think there's different perspectives here. But for example, like my background is when I worked as a data scientist, I just so happened to be within the healthcare field, and I was told that it was actually really good to position myself as a healthcare data scientist because it is such like the healthcare domain is so vast, and you can actually getting into that niche can be difficult. So since you're there, it's I was told to play to my strengths. But then now I think since I transitioned into PM, I think it's also interesting. Like there's also this other advice, right? Like when you're changing careers, you should either stay within the same domain you're in and change your function, or keep your function and change industry. So like try not to change two things at a time. Yeah. So I think that's so yeah. I mean, in that context, I don't know whether it's better to be. Yeah, I think bottom line, you need a combination of both, but knowing when to leverage both is also very important. And yeah, I think everyone kind of touched upon the business and technical parts of it.
I'm just going to read a few comments that are coming in. Driss Mazgotti is saying, I love the vibes here. And he says hi to you, Katrina. Lauren Sislensky Connor saying hi, happy to be here.
Lauren's a partner of mine.
Katrina stacked the audience.
I know I'm waiting for someone that I know to say something.
And Driss Mazgotti asked the question that segues into the next question that I have for you guys. So the beautiful thing about working in tech is that this is a knowledge domain where you can construct your tools. If you become aware of the things that you need to do and you have repetitive tasks, you can sort of create your own tooling. What does it mean to augment your capabilities in your job with scripts, with automation, with procedures?
I'll keep it very simple. I get bored quickly and I hate repetition and I hate repeating myself. So over the last year, the tools at our fingertips that we have access to automate, to decrease repetition, for me personally, I feel like all of it is a gift. And I'm just very grateful that things are evolving in that area because of my background from owning my own business, from coming from the restaurant world. Every wasted minute is $1 or a penny, and those pennies add up to thousands at the end of the year. And I'm just very much programmed like that. So for me, the efficiency mixed with accounting, I always think about it like, oh man, I wonder how many hours per year this will save me, times a team, times the whole business. So I'm always thinking along those lines of accumulating savings based on time saved. So that I get really kind of a little crazy in how much I enjoy that kind of work.
So I guess you're asking like how do we use these tools or scripts or AI tools to save time?
How do you continuously elevate your capacity for doing more work or having more consistent outputs in your work through technology or operations?
Through technology, for sure. AI has helped a ton in so many ways. For example, even something as simple as creating an email, and I'm a big fan of being very, very careful with the wording and that kind of thing. And so, almost everything now that I do, that's not just kind of like answering yes or no or that kind of thing. I try to uh, get AI to help me to word it properly, or like say, if I'm creating a little blog or whatever, because I do that for my work. I create blogs that go on LinkedIn. I always start with AI, but I also understand, and this caveat to everybody here: you can't just ask AI to do it and then send it out. You have to like carefully look at it and put your own words and that kind of thing. But AI is great for sort of dealing with that writer's block, you know, and and I think that that's super important. In fact, I think that it's super important. It's so important that everybody needs to start doing this, because when everybody else starts doing it, it becomes the norm, and then and so it's important to
I always,
upskill.
I
Yeah.
always say AI is the spark and you are the fire.
Yeah, I like that. That's kind of
That's
cool.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like use AI. I use it for job descriptions. I use it for, a lot of things that are used to take us a lot of time and,
Exactly.
part of jobs that we didn't want to do. Like for me, it's like, let's take the tedious and the mundane and let AI help us. And then we can use our brain power on the higher functions that we need to do, right? And then, just procedures. Like with my team, we're always trying to build, SOPs, and how can we augment technology? How can we throw less people at something and more technology, right? That's,
Mhm.
it's going to drive efficiency. I think, Anne, you were talking about dollars and cents. It's going to help my gross margin. It's going to help me be able to invest in other areas of the business. But yeah, I mean, my favorite part about AI, and like, people have so much fear when it comes to AI, but it's like, I think people don't realize, the good that's there and how it can help us really evolve in our everyday work life,
Yeah.
so like embrace it.
Yeah, and just to add, I think people's perception of AI has definitely changed with ChatGPT. I think until
Yes.
ChatGPT was
100%.
Yeah.
people, yeah, it was like people were very scared and uncertain because, because I did a research study back during my master's where we were studying trust in AI and how people perceived AI recommendations and whether they would accept it or not. And then we kind of mocked the system to give wrong answers or right answers and see how that affects user perception. And, I mean, obviously like one wrong answer and then the trust is just gone. It could have been just that one time, but really like it's so important to contextualize this in context of sorry, I said that twice, but it's important to understand people's perceptions have changed for sure. And I think right now is a really good time to take advantage of it and explore other avenues and other ways to leverage Gen AI. So specifically for marketing or like creative domains as well. It's like I think there was a person who wrote an entire book in a couple of days just using ChatGPT, and I think that's incredible, and that's not something we would be able to do in the past, right? So there are several new possibilities that definitely have been opened up here, and I think we should not be afraid to explore.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the acknowledgement that you need to be elevating the time that you spend on your work to make your work more efficient, so you can free yourself up to do higher level tasks, higher level thinking, upskilling away from Flash and into the next technology group. So here's a pattern, right? I mean, you're women in tech, you're women in AI, but you're people, and you're staying ahead of the curve by investing in yourself and taking on new challenges and morphing into different shapes in order to fit the situation. Um, but this is going to a comment that we have here from Dr. Brian Allman. I'm finding these conversations fascinating and relevant to men as well.
For sure.
How do you acknowledge these accomplishments? I mean, you have to take some stride and pleasure that you are a step above where you were yesterday.
Ooh,
Sure.
I don't look at it like that. I see so many people suffering in the job market right now that I just want to share what I've had to help people be able to keep their mortgages paid and food on the table. Because maybe I look at it too much, but I see so much of that, and I just I don't look for like, I can validate myself. Like, I don't need it from external sources, but I do like to share it out because I think it's just needed right now. And I don't care if you're what your gender or anything like that. If you need the assistance, I'm happy to share it.
I agree. I mean, um, it's a difficult time for many people, like you said, Anne, but it's also a great time of opportunity, because AI is so new to most people, not to everybody, but to most people. And it's, a lot of companies are now, small, medium-sized businesses can now adopt AI because, the tools are there, and, open source. So it's more affordable now for small, medium-sized businesses to adopt AI. So the demand for AI skills is going to explode. And so if you are looking to upskill yourself or to get back in the workforce or something like that, AI offers so much opportunity, because if you think about it, well, nobody, or not nobody, but most people don't have like 20 years that you're competing with. Everybody's kind of new in the area. So I feel like that's a great opportunity, and I love to help and encourage people, men and women, to do that, because that's basically kind of what I did as well. So it's my form of giving back.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not really great at self-promotion, and it's not until like probably the past 2 years that I've really embraced speaking and doing panels like this and being confident in myself enough to do that. But I think what's really important is to teach people, or to help people see that what we've been through, like, this just didn't
Mhm.
land on my lap. I worked really, really hard. I think people, I hear people say like, "Oh, you're really lucky." There's the phrase like, "Well, there's a lot of hard work that goes behind that luck." Um,
Yes.
and so I think I'm trying to use my quote unquote accomplishments to show people like where I started, all the jobs that I've had. I've been laid off before. I've not had jobs before. I've had that, moment I think probably everyone has had, like, what do I want to do when I grow up? I mean, I still think about that now. Like, is this, is this my path? And really just helping people learn from my experiences and show that, if you get laid off, and to the point in this moment when we see so many of our friends struggling every day on LinkedIn with the open to work, and for me, I have so many people reaching out all the time asking if I have any open positions. I'm a human that like that. It's when I have to say like nothing right now, or I'll keep you in mind. Um, but hey, is there something else I can do to help you? And what can you learn from my experience? I think is what I try to use my accomplishments for.
Yeah, and also we need more people to be open about their experience and their struggles, um, or just being honest, right? Because I know sometimes it seems LinkedIn is a place where people just talk about their happy moments, but I think acknowledging it and
Very good point.
Yeah. And right now, I think that's something, that's a change we're seeing, right, with people being open and vulnerable. But yeah, having said that, I think yes, we try and we do what we can, and then of course we just hope that the more people that are on board, the more, like, the better community and better outcomes we can all achieve together.
So one of the elements that led me to sort of put a call out for presentations for this event was first from a colleague, Mary Berg. She and I were having a conversation lamenting the lack of representation of women in, conferences and symposiums and all these things. So I said, well, that sucks. Let's do something about it. I hate saying, oh, like, point at the thing that doesn't look good and not do anything about it. I'm not that kind of person. Let's do something about it. But there's also a coworker that I had, Juanita Sorano, and she said, how can you be what you don't see? So
Right. Yeah.
that was what was like, dang, that's such a powerful little quip that kind of stuck in my head. And that was like in 2016. And I'm quoting that from the first time I heard that. But it's true. Like, how can young women beat imposter syndrome or feel welcome in this environment if they don't see people like them or people of their background be more present and be more vocal about the struggles and accomplishments that they've overcome? So let me ask you, how have you proactively managed your career to be where you are today?
I mean, I cut my teeth in an industry dominated by men in the restaurant business. So I was, I don't want to say trained, but I got used to that environment very early. I mean, I started my first restaurant job, I think I was 14, 15. And I just got used to that grit, and that I had to be stronger, faster, smarter, better at every single thing they did to get half as much recognition. So now I don't care. You can put me in a room with a CEO and I'm perfectly comfortable, because I just will not be intimidated. I'm not, it's been beat out of me, so to speak, not literally, and I'm grateful for that, because it's a soft skill that my directors and female bosses recognize in me and are like, yeah, like they see it and they recognize that, and it means something. So that's, I could go on about this for a while, so I'm just going to stop.
So how did I manage my career? So there are certain philosophies that I've always held. So one of the things is, having a great network is essential. So you have to try really hard not to burn any bridges. I mean, Silicon Valley is a small valley, at least, especially in the 90s. You're not going to get along with everybody at work, but try to be curious, not furious. When someone does something that you think is wrong or you didn't like, I think that's something that I always think of. The other thing is, when I'm interviewing, or even when I'm giving you like advice or things like that, I always tell myself that it has to feel, especially interviewing for jobs or projects, it has to feel a little bit like I'm boasting, I mean, and this is uncomfortable for me. And I know that of myself, because I'm the type that's like under promise, over deliver, that type. But of course, the interviewer doesn't know that. So if I under promise, well, then he or she might think, well, that's all I can do, right? So I have to tell myself, I have to feel a little bit like I'm boasting. And then other things, well, in tech, you always have to feel like you're learning. We already talked about that. That's upskilling. I really believe that everybody needs to be proficient in AI. It's kind of corny, but there's saying going around, well, AI won't replace you, but somebody with AI will, that kind of thing. But I really believe it's true. And then I think the most important is it's having a mentor. I've been so lucky in my career. I've had such good mentors. When I was young and I was software engineer at Oracle, one day I became the manager because I was the most senior engineer. I'm like, wow, but I'm a computer scientist. I don't know how to be a manager, but I was super lucky because I had a good mentor and he helped me become empathetic and all that soft skills that maybe I was 25 or something, and so I didn't have. So I think having a mentor is very important in your career.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, continuous learning, obviously we were talked about that. Never saying no, always treating
Yeah.
people with respect. I think Katrina, you really nailed that. Like, this world is small and you never know where you're going to find the next person. And I always say, like, no one's going to remember tomorrow what project I managed, how much revenue I delivered to the company, but they're always going to remember how I made them feel.
I love
And
that.
as leaders, we have such a we are put in a position that is so important to guide people's paths, and you don't realize that, if I'm having a bad day, which, I'm not perfect, I sometimes do, and my mood can impact my employees, and recognizing that. So, like, I'm just always trying to improve myself as a leader, improve myself as a person, make friends, smile, be kind, and just know that, like, you're the only person that's ever going to worry about you, right? So that's awesome, and how you manage your career, but also try to be someone that worries about someone else, because it'll go a long way in their lives. And so I don't know, I just try to be as authentic as I possibly can, and that has really led me in my career, as I've gone through this crazy path.
Yeah, I think authenticity and I mean, Katrina, you also mentioned networking and mentorship. I mean, these are definitely things that also helped me. I think at every step in my way, like the fact that I came to Duke for my master's, that was because my managers, he saw that I was better with dealing with talking to people and more interested in the business side of things. So I think just having these people in your lives who can point out and direct you in a direction is definitely helpful. And also like being curious, right? I think for me, like most of my opportunities have come by in such strange or unexpected places. So one of them was at a dentist's office. I was just curious, and I was telling them, oh, these systems that you have, like I've done, my thesis was in a similar area of work, and they were like, oh, you should talk to this person. He's a startup founder, and then it just took off from there. And a few weeks later, I had a job offer in hand. So it just goes to show that the most unlikeliest of places can lead to something. And at that time, I mean, I couldn't work because I did, my visa status was different. But it's just an example of something where if you're willing, like if I just stayed quiet and not said anything, nothing would have come out of that interaction. So, and this is something, I often share the story with others, and because it's just an example of because people think that networking needs to be done in this very sterile environment, like has to be on LinkedIn, has to be, at these networking events. But no, like it can literally be with someone you meet outside. And yeah, so you mentioned mentorship, networking, yeah, and then yeah, being authentic. I think that's also very key, because people can tell if you're not the person you're portraying yourself to be. So I think it's very important. And I guess the other thing is sometimes we're more critical of ourselves, especially as women, and maybe not just women, but I think more so the case. We're hyper focused on ourselves, but others are not so focused on that. So I think that's something I'm still struggling with, and for sure, something I personally need to work on. But yeah.
Just a quick comment here. We have Pollux Cano saying, "I came because of Anne." Shout out. One quick comment here is, what do you recommend in terms of screen time balance when it comes to upskilling, networking, and keeping up with all the advancements in technology? I think we kind of addressed that do what you can when you can, and
audiobooks is a big one for me, and it also helps me fall asleep at night because I know all the women are going to be like, totally relate to this. I'm not doing all my checklists in my brain as I'm falling asleep because I'm listening to a book. And that is one of my tips for fighting back that anxiety brain before bed and that insomnia that comes from ticking off boxes. And you can upskill while you're trying to fall asleep. I use that one all the time. And I learned this one from Allie Miller. You can take a walk in the morning before you get started and talk your day through into whatever AI, and then have have it organize your thoughts for you. So you can, say, well, today I need to do da 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 da. Oh yeah, and da da da. Can you put that into organized lists by task or whatever like that? So I think it's really important to get outside, at least half hour a day. Get out there and move around a little bit. I've been flirting with the treadmill desk, but I'm afraid it would turn into a coat rack desk real quick. So, but I think it's really important to try and, regiment yourself.
Oh wow, yeah, definitely. I do audiobooks, but mostly I do shorter stuff like podcasts. But there's so many good podcasts out there now that where you can learn stuff and on AI. Actually, there's too many.
Too many, yeah.
Yeah, you can't listen to them all. But I have a few favorites that I try to listen to all the time. I think also what's worked for me is I'm like really open to like learning from everybody. It's amazing how much you can, like in conversations. Well, and especially because I'm lucky enough to live in Silicon Valley. There's so many technical, very smart technical people around that that I try to have conversations with people and really listen to what they're trying to say. And people, if you I feel like if you really want to listen, people love to talk about their job and their work and stuff like that, and help you, when you ask questions and all that, and that's helped me a lot.
Yeah, I love that, Katrina, because I've recently been reminding myself that you need to listen to learn, not to answer. Right? Like it's this because so many people are like waiting to interject. Oh, I did that too, or I know that too. But I think to the point of the screen time, I would bet all four of us are in front of screens all day long. So to Anne's point, I really do love a podcast, but I also love networking and getting in like with you all, really smart women. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I always want to learn something.
Yeah.
And if we have those conversations with each other, I guarantee we're
Yes.
gonna listen and learn from each other. And like that's the only way we're gonna continue to grow without screen time as well.
Yeah, screen time is definitely a struggle. And I've been, again, back to the accountability partner. Like I share my screen time at the end of the day with a friend. And so we've been, so it's embarrassing to say when it's longer than a certain number of hours when it gets to double digits. But yeah, I think audiobooks are great. And that's something I started off with podcasts, but now I've moved on to like full length novels. So I listen to it when I'm at the gym, and it's been great. I think I'm on my 10th book since I started at the beginning of the year. And yeah, and I think having a schedule. So for me, I think having a planner, and I block out a time of day So let's say 2 hours or 3 hours a day, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do anything else. And I think that's very important to keep yourself disciplined. And especially if you're working from home, I think it becomes even more important that you have that structure for yourself. That's all I had to add that.
There's a saying that I picked up somewhere. I don't know if it was a book or someone said it to me, but when one teaches, to learn, and that is so enriching. You just have to go out and ask people, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit about what you do and how you got where you got?" And you will be surprised to find the lessons and insights that you can get from that. But that leads me to ask, what is female mentorship? Where can you find it? And how can you be that for people that are coming, behind you?
I know some people are very uncomfortable reaching out to people they don't know. But one of my things is if it makes you uncomfortable, that's a sign you need to walk towards it. So send those DMs. I found some of the most amazing mentors on LinkedIn. I would just see them post. Sometimes when you see people post, you just kind of connect to them. You kind of feel who they are, what they're about. And if somebody touches you like that, reach out to them. And even if it's just, you click that connect button and that's your first step. And then maybe the next time you put a note and click that connect button. But the squeaky wheel gets the oil is so cliche, but it's really the truth. And I have been mentored by some of the most amazing women. I actually did a post last week about, those shirts that have like famous poets' names on it. I made a shirt with all my mentors' first names on it. And I was just like, I was like, sometimes I have cute ideas. And that was, one of them was, but I seek them out. I felt their vibe. I connected to them and I seek them out. And I'm sorry if that makes you uncomfortable, but run towards that discomfort and do it anyway.
I like that. I love that. I need to think about that. If you're uncomfortable, it's probably a sign that you need to run towards it. I'm gonna have to remember that one. So as far as mentoring women, I love to do it, and I feel like I always have like a couple in the works. Like I just helped a friend's daughter, like she just graduated computer science, and she was kind of like worried about interviewing, so I gave her some mock interviews, that kind of thing. There's so many resources out there. I volunteer in one called the Job Forum, which is here in San Francisco, and it helps people, especially a lot of I would say the majority, not all, but the majority are women who have taken a break, to mostly for childcare, but sometimes parents care or whatever, sickness. And it's hard for them to get back in the job, and I love to help those, because I did it myself. I took a break, and then I had to come back. So I understand the anxiety, and you kind of like, oh, nobody's gonna hire me, that kind of thing. So those are the things that I've tried to do.
Yeah, so I think you're asking about mentors that we've had as well, right? I mean, I still talk to one of my first bosses, Tracy. Give her a little shout out here. I felt at the time she was one of my first bosses, and I didn't realize. I mean, I knew how great she was at the time, but 20 years later, like, I wish I knew then,
Yeah.
how great she truly was. And I still connect with her. I still talk with her. She's a great mentor. And I try to lead in everything that I do by the things that she taught me. And I'm grateful to this day for her still being my friend and mentor. I will reach out to her to ask her questions. But also, I don't want to say just women, because I had a great male who was a mentor as well. And he still mentors me to this day. He knows me inside and out. And he always tells me the cream always rises, Melanie. So when I go through these ebbs and flows and I struggle, and he pushes me to remember like myself, right? Because I think we've all talked about this. It's, none of us have it all together all the time, and we all have doubt, and it creeps into us. And so then I try to think about, those two really, really important people in my life, and I try to be that for someone else, because I think I wouldn't be where I am right now without their amazing guidance. And I know it's about women mentors, but I do want to say that I've been lucky enough to have a really great male mentor as well, and just try to pay that forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I've never had a woman mentor. All my mentors have been men, but they've all been really good, and I have a lot to thank them for. So.
Yeah, that's great. I just to add as well, I think again I've also had a mix of both mentors, and I think surprisingly it's not that I sought out female mentorship, but it's just looking back, I see that I've had really good mentors, specifically like during my university education, and who I'm still in touch with, and I think all of you are also really great in terms of like the career path that you've taken, and yeah, like I think just to Anne's point, like it's important to not be shy in reaching out and try, because you never know like when, like how people will respond, and there might be something like that can resonate with them, and like I said, one of the person I connected with at that dentist office, um, he ended up being a mentor, and it's been 3 years, and we have like monthly calls, every month basically. So it's so it's surprising, and but yeah, you'll never know until you try. So I think and it's definitely important to reach out and pay it forward, right? As
Yes.
we were talking about.
One thing I'd like to put out there for anybody that's listening is that you can ask anybody here in this panel, and I will. If you were counseling a younger version of yourself, would you deny their request for help?
No.
So if you're in a position where you're starting out in your career and you reach out to any of these wonderful women, for a fact, I can guarantee at least a 15-minute coffee chat,
Yeah.
they'll make it work.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why we're here.
Right.
There is one question from Manas. She's asking, I'd like to ask, what are their suggestions for somebody who wants to dive into the world of AI, where to start, and what are some of the fundamentals that you think they should learn?
I chat with Manaz outside of this forum, so I'm going to let the other ladies answer that question. She knows what I have to say.
Well, ask AI, like I was saying, go at the ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and ask that question. You'll be amazed at what they'll answer. And then you can have this conversation and go deeper and deeper and deeper. So, but how I did it is I went to Coursera and I took some classes. I got a certification in machine learning and NLP. But there's so much you can do in AI that's just one area, and the area that I wanted to understand and be more technical. But there are so many courses now, like how do you be use generative AI in product management, in user experience, in support. There's so many. So it'd be different depending on what area you want to be in AI.
Yeah, and I would say learn the terms and make sure that you understand them. So many people throw out these buzzwords, and I think even I was at dinner with my boss last night, and she was saying the night before she'd been at dinner with someone, and at both tables on either side of her, she could hear AI, 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 and it was like, she's like, I don't even know what they were talking about, but they were just talking about AI. And so many people ask me the question like, oh, well, what do you like about Gen AI or LLMs? And you're like, okay, well, probably they're just throwing out buzzwords because they don't know, what those terms are. So I think like to the point that Katrina just made, go on to ChatGPT or AI, some sort of AI tool, and learn some of the different aspects of AI, learn some of the terms, and then think about what's important to you. Like, bias is a big one for me. Like the bias in AI, how we can
Mhm.
we can affect change in bias in AI. I do a lot of speaking about that. Just I think when you spend a lot of time learning about the different aspects of AI and what makes it great, what can challenge it, you'll find something that really hits a nerve in you, and then dive deeper
Mhm.
into that. That would
Exactly.
be my biggest suggestion.
Mhm. Yeah, so the Coursera course is a really good one. I think Andrew Ng has.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, so that's very popular and that's very easy to get started with. I guess in addition to everything that's been shared, projects would be another really good way, like hackathons or
Mhm.
datathons. If you can find a team or even join a hackathon as a single, individually,
Mhm.
and you can join a team and you can definitely gain a lot. And I think over the past year, there were a lot of hackathons happening across the country, and probably across the world too, where you can meet like-minded people, and it'd be a great opportunity to network as well. So yeah, there are a few suggestions.
I'd like to leave the audience with a lasting impression, or at least maybe something that they can relate to. Um, would it be okay if you shared an anecdote where a mentor, as we're clearly stating here, male or female, left a lasting impression that gave you a sense of ownership or autonomy over your career?
So for me, Polly Allen is one of my people. And I got started in one of her classes, and she freed me in the sense of, I was working on something and I kept on badgering her for help and ask, and then I'd message her again and again and again. And I said to her, I said, Polly, I might not be the smartest in the room, but I am no doubt the most relentless. And she said, that is even more important. And I just felt so seen and so validated that I was just like, and like I had permission to keep asking questions and permission to stay up till 2 a.m. reading, and just it doesn't sound like it that big of a deal, but it was so super impactful for me to not need to be the smartest one in the room, but to be the one that just doesn't quit. And that just freed me. Like, I can do this. Like, her words just made me feel like I can do this. And I had to be relentless in every way. I rebuilt my portfolio a bunch of times, my resume. I learned how to interview. I had to be relentless in every single thing, rebuilding the chatbots that I built. And that was a soft skill that is underappreciated. And I'm a, when I'm on a subject, I can't stop until I get it. And that her giving me that was so freeing and just such a gift.
For me, it was Gus Baird. He was my undergraduate advisor at Georgia Tech. And remember, this is the 80s. And at Georgia Tech, you have to pick an area of specialization as a freshman, and I'm computer science. And I had no idea, but you know, I used to have all these great conversations with him, and about all sorts of things. We bonded really well, and so I asked him, and then first thing he says to me is, "Well, what do you want to do when you graduate? Or do you want to go in academia, or do you want to go in into the workforce. And I said the workforce because I was telling him, oh, I think AI sounds so cool. Remember, this is the 80s. And he said, well, if you want to go into the workforce, don't do AI because, that's not going to be relevant for another 30 years, that kind of thing. He said, go into networking. So I did. And he was absolutely right. I caught the wave like really perfectly, like the mid 90s, late 90s, and ever since then, it has made me realize that I mean, yes, that was good advice and all that, but it was more than that because he helped me to understand that I need to understand what I want first. Like I wanted to go into the workforce, not academia, and then based on what when you understand what you want, then you can chart your path. It's not just what's the hottest thing or whatever. So that stayed with me for my whole career.
I gave away my one of my stories, but no, I mean I'll go back to Tracy Fike, who was one of my who I talked about earlier as my first real mentor, who took such great care of my career and making sure to help me grow. She was my boss as a leader, and at that time it was my first real management experience. But the things that she would do for me that I could never thank her for was never come to me without with a problem without a solution. I don't I'm not going to answer for you. I will guide you in the direction, but you need to do the first level of thinking there. And the other thing that she would always challenge me in a super healthy way of, is this your best work? Can you have done something a little bit better? But not in a way where she redlined everything I did, but just to challenge me in everything that I delivered, to make sure that I was delivering the best of me. And I still can hear her voice in my head when I'm doing something. And like, those are the things that you can't, you can't take for granted. It really guides your path and it teaches you what to do. And then, I think I just mentioned one of my other mentors who always, the first time he told me that, I had been passed over for a promotion. And of the course at the time, it's like, what can you tell your younger self? Like, it was the end of the world. I was never going to have another opportunity. And he just looked at me and he was like, the cream always rises. This wasn't your turn. And you'll know one day why you didn't get that I can't tell you what it is, but don't let that guide you into a way that you think you're any less than you really are. And so those are the things that stick with me, have guided me. I hear them in my head all the time, and I'm, like I said, I'm truly grateful. I've had other great mentors, so if anyone's listening and they're like, oh, you didn't do that, but they're the ones that are that stick with me and sort of everything I still do to this day.
Awesome. Really, I guess, really beautiful gems. Like, I've been taking notes of like the quotable quotes and learnings from this. But Melanie, I think both of the points you mentioned, I also those were like the same for me. So the first one about like, what steps have you taken to unblock yourself? Like, this was one of my my manager, like, he used to keep asking, or because especially in a technical domain, like you run into bugs and sometimes like you're just stuck with that for a really long time and you really want to just get the answer right as soon as you can. But I think, yeah, like, I mean, I guess your advice, take it a little further, like come with the solution. But yeah, just showing the process, because then it also helps. And I think as a manager now, like, I think knowing what steps they've taken like can help you arrive at the solution faster. So this is quite invaluable advice. And also, yeah, like holding you to a high standard. Initially, of course, like it can be a bit daunting, especially if you're early career. But then that, like, looking back, you will see that it is for your benefit, and there's a reason like you are being held to a higher standards because there is higher expectation of you. So I think it's been a journey of understanding that, and also being able to be empathetic, in these conversations.
In the spirit of the Women in AI Forum, I'd like to shout out Poonam Kalinani. She was a manager of mine, and they coined her Rambo. So by that nickname, you know that she did whatever it took to get the job done. And one of the things that she taught me that was very frustrating for me in the beginning was clarity of thought.
Mhm.
Why? How did it occur? Who is it impacting? When you can articulate those things, then you can deliver a case to move the needle forward. But I think that speaks to what Melanie was saying.
Mhm.
And also, I just want to give another shout out to my mom. She always said, work smart, work hard, but also work smart. I mean, you don't want to just carve out the most difficult task that's in front of you. You also want to prioritize the task that gives you the most benefit. And, you still got to go the extra mile, but at least it's putting you closer to the path at a faster trajectory. So with that, I want to take the time to appreciate you guys and thank you for sharing your knowledge, sharing your anecdotes, and lifting the spirits of the audience.
Oh,
You're
this is great.
welcome.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's super enjoyed it. Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.